Hi folks, so I'm in school today, but you're not but it's the very last day before you are. So I've taken the liberty of recording this final video for you. Last lesson we were finding percentages without a calculator. Today you often have a calculator, especially in the name of your phone with you. So we're going to have a little look at that. But before we do, I've got a nice little starter for you. An easier and a slightly harder version. So let's have a go at that and then we'll crack on, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all again on Wednesday. Right, hopefully you know the rules on these by now. We need the numbers from 1 to 9 in these boxes. We'll do the easier one before the harder one. So pause the video and give it a go. Straight away, because we've got 2 out of 3 here, there's only one number that this could be. 3 take 5 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus 8, because 8 take 2 is 6, would give us that. So I know that that's got to be an 8 in there. Now the next thing I'm looking at here is something times something, take 5 is 7. So if I take 5 from something and get 7, that must have given me 12. So what are the numbers that multiply to make 12? 1 and 12, well that's no good. 2 and 6, so it could be that, and 3 and 4. It could have been that, except that the 3 is there, so I know it's 2 times 6 there and there. It's just about which way round. It might be 6 times 2. So I think it's probably going to be 2 times 6. And then if I had 1 times 2, that would be 2. 2 take 5 is negative 3, but I can't use the 5. So it can't be that way around. So maybe it is 6 times 2. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 take 9 is 3. So that is possible. So it must be that one. 1 times 6 and 6 times 2 take 9. If I take 3 from something and get 5, it must make 8. So 1 plus 7 is 8. 7 plus 2 is 9. Take 4 is 5. And check. 9 4s are 36. Take 8 is 28. So that's the easier one done. Now moving on to the tougher one. Have a quick look at that. See what normally something to do with multiplications will be our way in. So pause it and have a go at harder if you haven't done already. Now we've got lots of things about multiplying up to make 28. I know that the factors of 28, 1 and 28, well they're not going to come into it. And then we've got 2 times 14 and 4 times 7. And the last number would have to be either a 1 or a 7, wouldn't it? So we've got 1 times 4 times 7 is the only way we could have 3 single digit numbers that are going to multiply together to give us 28, because if we did 2 times 7 is 14, we'd have to times that by 2 again, and we've only got 1, 2 that we can use. So it must be those through in some order. Then also we've got 10 here. We're dividing by something, then we're timesing by something. So we must have, because 10, 1 times 10, and 2 times 5, we're not going to be able to divide 2 single digit numbers and get any number other than 2 that we could then multiply by a single digit here, because we can't multiply by 10, so we can't make it down to 1, we can't make it down to 5, so it's going to have to be one number there that's twice the size of that one, and then that'll have to be times by 5. Now 8 times 4 is 32, so 8 times negative 4 is negative 32, and 1 take 5 is negative 4, so we must have a 1 there. Now I know that 4 and 7 go in some order there and there, but I'm not sure which order. I do know that I've got to divide by something to get 21 here. Now that's a bit tricky. I know that 21 divided by 1 is 21, but I've already used the 1. 42 divided by 2 is 21, so that's possible. 63 divided by 3 is 21. And What's 4? 4 21s are 84, aren't they? Now I could get 7 times 9 to make 63, but 84 is too big to get with 2 single digit numbers, and I could do 7 times 6 for 42. Now if I had 7 times 9, I cannot divide 9 and get 2, can I? Which is what I need to make 10 there. So it must be 7 times 6 is 42. 42 divided by 2 is 21. And 7 times 4 therefore is 28, and I've got 6 divided by, it must be 3 to make the 2, that I then times by 5 to get 10, and 4 times 3 is 12. 12 add 9 is 21. Now let's just check that this works. 2 take 9 is negative 11, take 8 is negative 19. That's not quite right, is it? It should, oh no, 2 take 9 is negative 7, isn't it? And then take 8 is negative 15, so we have got that right. That's a relief. Okay, always double check that last one, folks. Right, time to move on to our final main lesson. Hi there, so last lesson we were doing this. We were calculating a percentage amount without a calculator, but you'll notice there's a calculator in the middle here. So if I very cunningly just rub that bit out there, today's lesson can be how do we do it with a calculator, because a lot of the time these days we've got a calculator. If you don't have a calculator other than your phone, feel free to use your phone for this today, because it's a very simple part of the calculator we need to use. We don't need a lot of the fancy functions that you get on it. So at the end of yesterday's lesson, we finished up finding out 32% of £68, didn't we? We also did 68% of 32 and found that it was the same amount. But both ways, it was a fair bit of work in terms of finding out our simple chunks and then putting them all together and adding them together to get 21.76. So what if there's a fancy way with the calculator you can do it? And there is, but don't go using that percentage button that you may see on many calculators, because all that does is divide it by 100. So what we want to do is say, and it is important, the percentage does mean divide by 100. So very quickly, if we just look at this one, if I wrote 32 and I did hit the I don't know if you can see that, hit the percentage button like that, and then I press SD, what it tells me is 32% equals 0.32. That's all the percentage button is there for turning a fraction or a percentage into a decimal. And actually that is almost all we need to do this, because if you know that 32% is 0.32, and you know another fact, this is a really important one, so I'm going to this other fact is that in maths, of, and in life, of means times, or that symbol there, and that's what we're going to, I haven't written that very nicely, have I? And that's what we're going to be doing today. So if I was to take 32% and say that was 0.32, and say I want 32% of 68, if I put 0.2 times 68 into my calculator, I should get, let's go for 0.32 times 68. Does it give me, oh, I have to press S to D on this calculator, 21.76, which is the right answer. Now, do you remember we talked about 68% of 32? Well, 68%, 68 divided by 100, you can press the percentage key if you'd like to do it that way, is 17/25, which is 0.68. 0.68 times 32 should give us 68% of 32, and that last time got us 21.76, and this time it gets us 21.76. And all we're going to do today is think through all the more of that as we can. Right, have a look at this table, copy it down, see if you can fill it in. Pause the video, see what you get. I'm going to put one more on there as well. Okay, so to turn something from a percentage to a decimal, all you've got to do is remember that this means 15 divided by 100. So 15 divided by 100, you move the decimal point 2 places, is 0.15. And then that is your percentage of an amount multiplier. So I'm going to write times 0.15 there. And it's the same deal all the way down. Now 50% divided by 50 divided by 100 is 0.5. If you wanted to, you could imagine a 0 being there. If you times by 0.50 in your calculator, you're still going to get the right answer. So I'm going to put a dotted 0 in because it doesn't matter whether you put it there or not. 2% is not 0.2, a mistake quite often made. It's 0.02 because 0.2 would be just dividing it by 10. That would actually be 20%. Just as 0.5 is 50% and 5% would be 0.05. 84% we are going to be dividing by 100, so that's going to give us 0.84. Oh, and we will have multiplying by 0.02 for 2%, multiplying by 0.84 for 84%. For 25%, 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. So we're multiplying by 0.25. 1.5%. Oh, that's a tricky one. Or is it? All we have to do is move the decimal point 2 places, or move it relative to them. So it's not 0.15, is it? That's 15%. It goes 2 times. That's going the wrong way. 2 times to make it smaller. So the decimal point will be there, which gives us 0.015. So if you wanted to find 15% of something, you would times it by 0.015. And 100%. Well, 100% is all of it. Sometimes you might say someone gave 100% effort. That means that they put all the effort they've got, which is the whole of their being. One whole being 1. So if you wanted 100% of something, you'd times it by 1. Right, now that we've done that table, we're not going to use it, we're not going to just wipe it all off quite yet. We're going to practice find the percentage of an amount. Percentage of, instead of having an amount multiplier here, let's have an amount. Let's have a sneaky amount like, let's have some money, £43. And whenever you're dealing with money, everything has to be to the nearest penny. So we will round things if necessary. So all we've got to do here, pause the video by the way if you think you know what to do. All we have to do here is put 43 in front of our multiplier, and we will have all of these percentages of 43. So just as an example, you should be doing 43 times 0.15 for the first one, and that should give you 129 over 20. If you're using a scientific calculator, press S to D, otherwise you should already have it there as 6.45. And in terms of money, That's all we need, isn't it? Now, pause the video if you haven't done the rest already and have a go at doing all of these. So these should be your answers. Now there's one or two places where things may have gone. You would have got 21.5, but because it was money I had to put a 0 in there because it's £21.50, not £21.05, which you might get confused on otherwise. Also, when you did, which one was it? I think it was the 84%. You would have got, no, that one did come out exact. It was this one here, 1.5%. You would have got 0.645, which you'll notice is exactly 10 times smaller than that one, because 1.5 is 10 times smaller than 15. So you would have actually got 0.645 on your calculator. Now, money is in a bank, it is always rounded in terms of interest that you earn to the nearest penny, and sometimes that means you can gain a little bit and sometimes lose a little bit. In this case, we gain a little bit because it goes from 64p up to 65. So that should be our answer there. And then 43, that doesn't change at all, does it? Right, here's one of those wordy questions that they like to give, and what we've been using is the key to it. So pause the video and have a go at it. If you're not sure about my writing, I'll read it out to you before going through it. One adult ticket to the theatre costs £34. Children's tickets are 33.3% of an adult's ticket. How much does it cost for one adult and two children to go to the theatre? Right. Well, we know how much it costs for one adult to go to the theatre, so I think I'll write that down first of all. That's £34. I think pennies are going to come into it, so I'll put that there. So then we just need to know how much a child's ticket costs. Well, 33.3% as a decimal, we divide it by 100. You can use your calculator to do this if you're not too sure about it. Gives you 0.333. So one child's ticket is going to cost 0.333 times an adult ticket, which is 34. So we put that into our calculator, 0.333 times 34, and that gives us 11.322. So that means that we round to the nearest penny. One ticket must cost £11.32, and we want two children, so we're going to have £11.32 and another £11.32, and then we can use our calculator to do this, but that should give us £56.64. And that gives us time for just one last little question. Here's your last question. Mr. G is 89% of the way through a 164-kilometre journey. How far does he have left to go? Pause the video and have a go. Now there's two ways that you could do this using the calculator as far as I can see it. So I'm going to put in method 1 first of all, and then I'm going to put my favourite method over here. So method 1 would be to say that 89% equals 0.89, because 89 divided by 100 is 89. I would do 0.89 multiplied by 164, which would give me 145.96 kilometres, and then I would say that's how far he's gone. So to find out how far he's got left, if I take that away from how far he's got to go altogether, that will give me 18.04 kilometres, and that is the right answer. But another thing I could have done, which would have saved me just a little bit of work, would be to think, if I've gone 89% of the way, how far have I got left to go? 100% would be all of the journey, wouldn't it? Take 89% is 11%. So 11% of the journey left. So if I find 11%, which is 0.11, and do 0.11 times 164, let's try that in the calculator, that also gives me 18.04 kilometers, and that has saved me a little bit of work. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, folks, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Cheerio.